have to say I waited a long time to sit next to a Conservative who was a supporter of STV. You're very welcome. Please do disappear when you need to.
Can I disappear now? I'll be back.
Thank you very much, then. We'll see you in a bit.
I'm going to vote just a
He supports PR, now he's going to run.
I was just about to praise you, but you've gone.
You record this?
Yeah. Now you'll have to return. I sort of feel that this lady sitting on my right needs a little introduction to this audience, but I'm just going to say two things about her. When I was a student reading Polly Toynbee, she was like some sort of goddess who you had to read avidly, and then it was always the thing that you discussed over lunch between lectures. She's been writing for The Guardian since '98, but has written masses before then. She was voted last year by Editorial Intelligence as the most influential columnist of the year.
On whom? Sorry.
Anyway, take your accolade. A long-time supporter of PR. She, in 2005, at the last election, urged Guardian readers to put a close peg on their nose and go and vote. I wonder what she'll be saying this time round. Polly Toynbee.
Thank you very much. No, as for influential, I wish. Show me where and who. No sign, certainly, of this government that I have often supported where I possibly can, and often with a nose peg. I have to say that I come here today particularly in a state of utter despair about politics. And Pam and I were talking before about having spent so much of our lives, me even longer than you, in meetings like this, talking about this, and we've got virtually nowhere, and it now looks as if we have a large, at least long chunk of our life ahead in which we will again be talking at meetings like this and getting nowhere on electoral reform. I find it just absolutely desperate and inexplicable that we are probably coming to the end of 13 years of a Labour government that was committed to change and to doing things differently in all kinds of ways, and so little has changed. I mean, finally, at the very last gasp, we're going to almost abolish the hereditaries when they die. That's about the sum total of it as far as the Lords are concerned. It seems quite extraordinary, and I think probably their invention of the Lords' hereditaries voting for who should replace them as they died was probably one of the most bizarre forms of election ever invented, let alone by a modern Western democracy. I still think it quite astounding that we are the only democracy in the world that is also a theocracy and has 26 bishops de facto making our laws, and they're very influential, they matter a lot. I think we would have had assisted dying without their intervention. But above all, of course, as Douglas said, and it was wonderful to hear him say it because he spent a long time appearing on these platforms, not quite saying it, and now he's finally said it. He is the one and only elected Conservative who will support proportional representation, and that's magnificent and splendid and terrific. But it's also utterly tragic that he's the one and only, and there's not much sign that any of the ones likely to come in are going to support it either. But the thought, I think, a whole lot of people you meet all the time, whether one's going around canvassing with watching what's going on the doorstep, or whether it's just talking around to everybody one meets. The prospect of voting at the next election for large numbers of people, unless they are passionate Conservative supporters, is so dismal. I think the choice has never been worse, never been more limited. People have never been more despairing and fed up. Lots of Labour voters, deeply angry with Labour, deeply afraid of the Tories, maybe like the Lib Dems, but what's the point in accepting certain seats? The great fear is that a lot of people are going to go off and vote BNP and UKIP. And when you look at the Labour Party and you look at its history, you look at how Blair did make an attempt, together with Paddy Ashdown, to consider the whole question of PR early on, but was confronted with such dinosaurs in his own party that the massed ranks of Gordon Brown foremost, of Jack Straw, of David Blunkett, of John Prescott saying no way, over our dead bodies, he decided that it was one fight too far, and one fight that he he wouldn't take on. He's willing to take us to war, but he wasn't willing to confront them. Saddam Hussein was less scary, I think. But now I disagree with Douglas about lots of things, but he's extreme libertarian in all sorts of ways. I'm very worried at the idea of widespread open primaries. One thing, they cost £40,000 each. There is just no way parties, let alone smaller parties, no way the Labour Party in its present state can do that. I think that going against, he's very anti-party, against the party system to that extent is actually anti-democratic. I think you need to vote for somebody where you know what their manifesto and their platform is. And the idea of voting for individuals, I think in the end, is far more disempowering. But that's a minor point, really, compared with the praise that I heap on him for going against his party in such a remarkable way. I think we're facing an absolutely awful general election. I think the incumbents are going to have a really hard time, and of course, again, more of them are Labour. We are going to get on Thursday this week another avalanche of horror in terms of expenses. The 08-09 expenses are coming out. They will all be put up on the web in a raw form. All the journalists will be up at 6 o'clock in the morning trawling through the whole lot. Only a few weeks of those will be post the Telegraph revelations. Most of them will predate that. In other words, they will be the business as usual, yet another lot, another outpouring of rage and fury, and yet more sense of distrust and a reminder of all the reasons people are feeling angry about MPs anyway. Hasn't gone away, it's going to be coming back again. I think the lack of trust is really dangerous. I think that after the next election, we're very likely, if there are going to be huge public sector cuts, we're going to see increasing youth unemployment. I think it's very likely we'll get riots again. We're going to be back to the early 80s. There won't be an uprising about undemocratic issues. There will just be, I think, outpouring on the streets unless a great deal more is being done than is being done now about youth unemployment. That's very alarming for democracy when that happens too. It gives democracy a terrible fright whenever there is rioting, and it seems to me quite likely. I don't think PR is the answer to all of these things. Trust, the dissonance between young people not voting, won't vote this election but may riot after it. But on the other hand, I do think that PR in one form or another is the absolute sine qua non of any kind of repair to our democratic system. Thank you.